Get ready to be inspired by the great things happening in rural education. The Rural Scoop will bring you new ideas and innovative solutions. We'll dive into education issues and we'll highlight what's working in your rural communities. You will hear from a variety of educators, administrators, professionals, and others who will provide relevant and engaging content in each episode. And now, serving up the scoop, here's your host, Dr. Melissa Sadorf.
Well, welcome back to the Rural Scoop. I am Melissa Sadorf, and in this special series of episodes, we're going to be shining a spotlight on the Arizona Rural Schools Association Rural Teachers of Distinction, all 10 of them that were named this fall. Each of these outstanding educators has made a significant impact on their rural communities, and we'll be hearing directly from them about their unique journeys, the challenges they faced, and the innovative ways that they're making a difference in rural education. So in each episode, you're going to meet a different rural teacher of distinction and gain some insight into what it means to be a rural educator today and how they're using the rural advantage to inspire their students and contribute to their school communities. So let's dive in with our guest of today, and that is Sara Darnell. Sara, it's a fantastic opportunity to be able to spend some time with you today and get a chance to talk with you about your students and your school and your rural community. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. This is a great experience. This whole thing with the Arizona Rural Schools has been a real joy. It's been a pleasure to kind of get to see things on a different side of it. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, absolutely. So let's start by having you introduce yourself to our listeners. Where are you in Arizona? What school do you teach at? What do you do there?
My name is Sara Darnell, and I teach in Lake Havasu City, Arizona. I actually was born and raised here in Lake Havasu, so I am a product of our school system, and my parents went to school here, my sister went to school here, my girls went to school in Havasu. So I've been a teacher here for 26 years in the district, and I've taught everything from 3rd grade all the way through 12th grade. And I'm currently a reading interventionist at our high school here.
Well, that's fantastic. So you have probably, given that you're an interventionist now, you started out in the classroom, most likely?
I did. I actually graduated from our high school on a Thursday and started college at our community college on a Monday.
Oh, wow.
And 3.5 years later, I was teaching 6th grade science to a bunch of kids that were only a few years younger than me, actually. I started teaching when I was 21. I taught for 10 years at our middle school here, and I taught science for 2 years, taught literature mostly, and I taught some history. And then I became a mom and thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I took about a year off, and then I went to the elementary school. Taught for 10 years at the elementary school, and now I'm finishing my career here up at the high school. And I started actually as an honors teacher here. And they realized that I knew a lot about all of the different standards. I'm a walking crosswalk. I'm like, well, no, you should have known that in 3rd grade. No, that's a 6th grade standard. And they realized that maybe a better place for me would be with intervention, just knowing that background. And so I've been over here now for 3 years in the intervention side of it, and I love it.
So tell me why or when you realized that you wanted to be a teacher.
So I decided I was going to be a teacher. I mean, I distinctly remember, I can tell you which classroom I was sitting in. I can tell you which seat I was sitting in. I can tell you actually what my teacher was wearing that day when I decided I was going to grow up and I wanted to be like Miss Felix. She was our student teacher that we had. I was in 2nd grade, and I fell in love with her. She realized really quickly that I wasn't the best at reading, and she kind of took me under her wing and got me into some reading classes, and I just fell in love with her. And it actually came full circle because she became one of our superintendents and assistant superintendent in our school. And like I said, I had taken a leave of absence for a year. I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And when I came back to school, I came back as a T-3 teacher. So anyone who's been in the districts for a while understands what that means. And unfortunately, that year we had layoffs. And so she actually had to hand me my RIF letter. And that was the first time I actually got to tell her that she was the reason why I wanted to be a teacher. Things worked out. I did not get laid off, but it was just, she was my inspiration. So I have quite a few teachers throughout my career that I've either worked with or I've had as a teacher itself who've influenced me. And I just remember what I liked the most about them. And that's what I keep trying to do.
That's fantastic. And, it's nice that you had an opportunity to tell her that. Sometimes we don't always get that opportunity to tell people that have made a difference in our lives. What a joy it was to have them for a season or for longer in our life. So that's exciting.
Yes.
So obviously, since you grew up in Lake Havasu, which is a rural community, I'm assuming that that's why you've decided to stay rural, is that's where your roots are and that's where your family has been from. Have you ever thought about leaving a rural community?
I did. I joke. When I graduated from high school, I was actually voted most likely to stay in Lake Havasu. Oh, and I have for sure. Even when I was away at college, my zip code was always 8640 something. But my first husband, he got a job opportunity in Texas, and we looked to move to Texas, and it just wasn't the right time or fit for me. So I decided that I was going to stay. And my ex-husband, he came back to Havasu, and we co-parent. We're great friends. And then I did get married again, and my husband is actually a teacher here at the high school with me, and I live less than a mile from the house I grew up in. My parents still live in it. They lived in that house for the last, we moved in when my sister was a week old. So my parents lived in that house for 48 years. And my sister is a teacher here. And my husband and my parents have worked at the school. And I was never going to leave. I like it here. But of course, Arizona, we get hot. And Havasu especially. So, I'm getting close to retirement. So we're looking to be a snowbird, maybe go someplace else during the summertime. But I just can't leave. I love it here. It's my security blanket. I like having my sister less than a mile away, my mom and dad less than a mile away. Both of my girls are not here in Havasu, but they're within 2.5 hours. So it's not far. So I don't see us leaving anytime in the future.
So tell me, what, Sara, are your favorite things about being a rural educator?
One of the things I really like is this is my hometown. And so I really know the community, and I know the people in our community. And I have kids, people I went to school with. I have children that, of children I've taught now after 26 years. I like knowing the ins and outs of everything in our town. And that really, I think, plays a big part into the ins and outs of our school. And knowing bonds and overrides are always hard to pass, and understanding why they're hard to pass in our little town. And it's just, I really like the fact that if I want to do something, I know people in our community that I can reach out to ask for help, that aren't necessarily in the school system, but I know that they can help us with something. And so it's just really nice. And, I send emails, and my husband laughs because I will hyphenate my name depending on who I'm sending a message to, because some people know me with one name, some people know me with another name. But my family are pioneers in this town, and I've seen them, what they've been able to give back. And I feel like my sister and I both have been able to continue on that. And that's just being part of, like, we're just part of the community. We're, you can't get rid of us out of here. We're here, and people know that. And to me, I think that really helps in our community because they see that we're here long term. We're not going away, and we give back. And that's a huge thing.
So, and what you're talking about is some of the opportunities that teaching in a rural setting offers rural educators. What are some of the challenges that you've encountered as a rural teacher, and how have you dealt with those challenges?
Well, I think what are the positives can also sometimes be the negatives. We are a small community, so everybody knows everybody, and sometimes that is not such a good thing. We only have one middle school, and we only have one high school. So there are times that, I've had my cousins in class, and maybe that's not the best thing. Or like I currently have a niece in my classroom. So sometimes it's a little too close for comfort in that aspect because we all know everybody. But being we're a white middle class, district. Funding is a major issue in our district because we are just a white middle class district. We are, kind of isolated from major metropolitan areas. Unfortunately, our athletic department, they have to get on a bus and they have to travel 3 hours to go to a football game. And the other schools from Phoenix come to us and they rent, coach buses, and our kids take the yellow school bus, every week. And Arizona, we're not known for having great pay. And so unfortunately, that's another thing is it wouldn't be worth it for me to leave at this point to go somewhere else. I'm literally 2.5 years away from retirement, and it wouldn't make sense. And the fact that we can't keep good teachers here. Our cost of living has went up. And so it's unfortunate. A lot of our younger teachers, they can't afford to buy a house here in town. And so they stay for 2 or 3 years. They, figure out how to teach and what's the best path for them. And then they leave us. And so I think having a high turnover is probably our biggest issue in our community with our teachers. We just can't keep people here.
Right. And you're pretty close to another state, California, yes. And it's not that far a drive for them to take a contract in another state and live in Lake Havasu.
It's not. I mean, we have some teachers that, they take the boat across the river every day and they go teach at the Indian reservation on the California side of our lake. We have teachers that drive to Parker, which is in a different county than us. We're only about 40 miles away from the Needles area. So it's a California school. We're 2.5 hours away from Vegas, so we do lose a lot of teachers to just better pay, bigger cities. But I like it. I'm not going anywhere.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit, Sara, and we have heard, I'm sure you've heard too, that rural teachers wear a lot of different hats just because you work in a rural system. So I know that you do other things besides reading intervention. What are those other hats that you wear?
You could pretty much throw anything out, and I probably have done it. I have worked as an advisor for committees. I've run the Renaissance Committee at Thunderbolt, and I've been student council advisor, and I have been club advisors for different things. My husband is a coach, or he did coach for many years. We don't, neither one of us coach anymore, but we actually work at every single volleyball game that there is. I do the door, he does the clock. We work at every single football game, and we work at basketball games, tutoring. Currently, we're all helping out with elections coming up, with our school board coming up, and pretty much if they need someone, they know that they can ask, and I'm probably going to say yes, because I would much rather do it than see our kids not have that opportunity. So I'm always I say I'm a glutton for punishment. Ask me, I'll do it.
So one of the things that I mentioned in the intro was the term rural advantage, because there is an advantage to living in a rural community. What does that term mean to you?
I think that's really up to interpretation. For every person that you ask, it's going to be different. Being the fact that I am born and raised here, you tend to be a little bit of a celebrity because everybody knows who you are. I think the biggest advantage for me has been the fact that I've looped with so many of my students throughout my career, whether it is being at the elementary school and looping up with some kids. In the intervention program I'm teaching at the high school right now, I have been in this position for 3 years. I've had those same kids for 3 years. And just having that small, close-knit ability to work with kids, I think, is the biggest advantage. And luckily, in who I work with in my department right now, we've all been here for a while. So we all work really well together. And I think that that's another thing that's an advantage in rural areas, is that we do have to work together so much as teams. And we really get to know each other well, but we also get to know students well because of that. And I think that's probably the biggest advantage, is just being able to make those relationships with kids. I mean, we're still a pretty big high school with about 1,700 kids. But on most days, I know a good, 50% of them who wander across my path, and I can talk to them, say them by name. And I think that that's a big advantage. If you have too many schools, sometimes I think you kind of lose that. And that's what school is. I mean, we're not only educating them, but we're helping to raise them. And just knowing them is a good thing. So I think that's probably the biggest advantage.
That's a great answer.
Thank you.
I agree. So is there a story that makes you go, yeah, that's why I stay. That's why I'm continuing in this path for the next 2.5 years until retirement. I'm going to tough it out. What is a story that you can share with us that just kind of epitomizes why you stay in the classroom?
I think all teachers have been facing burnout, and have thought about walking away. And I did really think about walking away a few years ago, but my stepdaughter, actually, she was going to be a senior, and she's like, you were here for Ella's first, senior year. Are you going to be here for my senior year? And I'm like, yep, I'm going to be here for your senior year. And then, of course, that was 3 years ago. So now it's like, okay, why am I still here? I'm still here because it's what I want to do. And I did take a leave for a while. I tried to work as a stay-at-home mom, and I realized that, I'm used to working in 55-minute blocks of time. And my house is clean. I don't have anything else to do. So I tried to go work out in as I say, the real world. And I realized real quickly that I wasn't meant for a 9-to-5 job. And my best friend, she'll tell you, I was working for her as a bridal consultant. And when prom happened, she's like, you're going to go back to the classroom. And I said, what do you mean? And she's like, I can tell. She's like, your smile is different when you're dealing with kids. And I'm like, yep, it is. And she's like, I want to keep you, but you're not meant to work with adults. You're meant to work with kids. And it just reiterated the fact that that is what I was meant to do. Yes, I made the decision when I was in second grade, but even at 36, it was, nope, that's what I was supposed to do. And when my stepdaughter's like, I want you to be there for my senior year at 46, I was like, yep, that was what I was meant to do. And I was going to step away this last year and go work in the correctional facility as a teacher. And just looking at how close I was to retirement, I'm like, nope, I'm going to stick it out. And I've had people ask me what my plan is. And I'm like, I'm still going to substitute. I'm still going to be in the schools. I just can't get away from it. It's me. It's part of who I am. And just, I guess, hearing that I was meant to be with kids was probably the biggest aha, that this is where I need to go. Go back to the classroom, do what you're supposed to be doing, and do what you're meant for.
Yeah. 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 And when you know, you know.
Yep. You do. There's no getting away from it once you know.
Yeah. Sara, you mentioned that there are some challenges that you're facing in Lake Havasu, but what would you say is the challenge that is the biggest factor right now for your district, or just for teachers in general across either our state or the country? And if you could solve it, how would you solve it?
I would say that we all need to remember the golden rule. Treat others how you want to be treated. That's probably the biggest thing that I see. We currently have a school board. We have three positions available, and we have some people running, and schools aren't meant to be political. And it definitely is creeping into schools more and more. And the biggest thing I think I see is forgetting that we're here to help educate students. Yes, we help them become productive citizens. We help them to become lifelong learners. We help them to be part of our community. We do teach them the difference between right and wrong. But politics aren't part of it. And there's too much fighting amongst different groups of people, what they think is correct and what they feel is not correct. And we forget that students, no matter how big or small they are, they hear that. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things I see is not only can adults be mean to each other, but kids can, but they're being mean because of what they've heard somewhere else. Maybe not necessarily because that's what they deep down believe, but that's what they're hearing. And if we could take the politics out of school and we could teach, that's what I want to do. I want to teach. I teach books. I love books. I want kids to love books. And it is what it is. I mean, I did have an opportunity to travel to China, and I was in a school in China, and I wouldn't want my students to participate in school like that. We have some great advantages here, and I wish that we could all agree that what we have is a great advantage, and what we are here to do in our classroom is for the best for kids. And I think that that doesn't matter where you're at, whether it's a rural community or a big city or anywhere in the United States. The same thing that we see on our adults fighting about and bickering about at the federal level is the same stuff we see at the state level and even in the city level, unfortunately. And I wish we could just get back to, let's be good, productive citizens, and let's be lifelong learners. I think that would be a big help for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a tough one to solve, isn't it?
Oh, there's no way we'll solve it, unfortunately. I think having the right people in the classroom, having the right mindset that we're here for kids. And sometimes we have to remind us that what we're doing, are we doing what's best for kids? Mm-hmm. And sometimes we almost need like a slap in the face to remind us that, hey, what are we here for? We're here for kids. So hopefully we can see some changes.
Good reminders, though.
Yep.
So, Sara, I'm sure that you have, given your experience, have seen some new teachers coming into your system And if you were able to tell them what it looks like to teach in a rural setting, why would they want to teach rural? Why would they want to stay rural? What would you tell them?
Money is not everything. Money can bring by other problems. I think that a rural community, you see your impact every day in a rural area. Because like you had said earlier, we all wear so many hats. So we get to see kids on such a different level just in the school system with what we're helping with and teaching. And then being in a rural community, doesn't matter which restaurant I go to, one of the kids is going to be a student. We see them in that aspect. They work in our grocery stores. Our parents work in grocery stores. You really do have an impact in this small rural community because you see every student. And yes, money is always great, but I don't know, when the kid's bagging your groceries and they're telling you how excited they were because, they're going to homecoming this weekend because we have homecoming, or I happen to be a literature teacher who's covered in literary tattoos. And they're like, oh, wait a second, explain that book to me again. Just having that aspect of it, I think, is way more important than a little bit of extra money, because you know that you've left an impact on that kid in some way. And even I always tell the kids, you'll understand the method to my madness eventually. Mm-hmm. And I've had kids come back and they're like, I get it now. And I'm like, thank you. I've done my job. You get it now. So I would say for those new teachers, yes, I understand the wanting to leave. I understand the wanting to have your own house. And I understand all of that. But what you gain from being in a small community with people and you see every day is so much more beneficial.
So, Sara, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to make sure that you bring forward before we end our conversation?
No, I think that this has been a great experience for me. I told my husband that this was the little spark that I needed to, be excited about teaching again, before I end my official career. And just being at the conference, I really loved being part of the breakouts and knowing that this was, coming down the pike for me. And also knowing that there are some other opportunities with the caucuses and all of that. And it's really impactful to me to know that even if I'm not in the classroom, I'm still going to be able to be part of this community because it's a larger community. And I could go be part of something at the state that I would much rather give back to the smaller groups, the rural groups. And I actually didn't know about this. And so that's been the best for me, is knowing that there is a group of like-minded people out there like me who are from these small communities who really do want to continue to work to make education great. So I appreciate the fact that I made it to the top 10, and I appreciate being able to go to the conference and being part of the podcast. And I look forward to be more involved in this group than I had ever thought I would have.
Well, we're happy to put you to work because you bring some great strengths and some great stories. And I know that you're going to be, your cup's going to be filled. It is, as you said, when you're around like-minded people that have the same goals and the same drive that you have, it's a great thing.
And that's what I want. I want to continue to help out. So,
well, we're happy to have you. Well, congratulations again, Sara, on being named a Rural Teacher of Distinction for the Arizona Rural Schools Association. And thanks for talking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to The Rural Scoop. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe, or even leave us a comment. And be sure to follow on Twitter at Dr. Sadorf. That's Dr_SADORF, so that you never miss a new release. You can also check out previous episodes of The Scoop wherever you get your podcasts. Production support for The Rural Scoop is provided by Chattanooga Podcast Studios. Find out more at ChattanoogaPodcastStudios.com. See you next time for more great discussions about rural education.